Bro, this is the third race and you're already on your second battery. Are you gonna make it to the end of the season? McLaren is not having a good time. So all is fair in F1, unless the racing stewards say no. Do you guys know what a simulator is? Q1 can just end. We already know who's getting eliminated. I don't know, I'm just all like, were the vibes off? He just wasn't feeling it. But he said, no, I'm telling you guys that there is an issue with the car and you guys keep telling me it's my driving style. I feel like that's facts. I don't know. He's been driving for a long time. If the car feels off, he would probably know about it. However, the commentator was like, it's not even a fight. But still, I'm just like, wildly inappropriate. But the team was like, nah, y'all can duke it out. I'm not just making stuff up. I'm coming in with the facts. Mercedes is quick on the straights, but Ferrari dominates the corners. Hey F1 fans. Welcome to the F1 chat with your host, Ogin. And this is your 2026 Suzuka recap. Ready? Let's begin. Now to start off this race weekend recap, we will first talk about the track. Now the Suzuka track is shaped like the figure 8 because it crosses over itself. This track started off as a Honda engine test facility for their F1 engine. This track also has a downhill start, so that's very interesting. Also, a lot of drivers love this track because of a very tricky corner called the 130R. And it's this long spoon curve that is very technical. So you have to get it just right to be able to get the most out of that corner. Aside from the track itself, Japanese fans are very much loved and adored. They always come up dressed to the nines in driver outfits and homemade headgear. You name it, they have it. The children also come dressed up as the F1 drivers with the suits and the helmets. So it's like having little mini drivers run around, and it's always a great photo op. Guys, it was really cute. So let's go into tech time. So there are 4 teams who did upgrades to their car for this race weekend. Red Bull did upgrades to improve their aerodynamics. Ferrari revised their upgrades from last race weekend and did an upgrade to optimize for better airflow. Aston Martin updated their car to find more balance. And Alpine and Cadillac did upgrades to maximize their downforce. I will be linking a video down below that goes more into depth about the car upgrades for this weekend. And just to put that out there, the last 2 races already showed us that Mercedes is very quick on the straight, but Ferrari dominates on the corners. All right, let's get into the practice sessions. FP1 was very significant. We found out that Fernando Alonso became a father, and that is very ironic that it would happen right before he's supposed to race on this track. Because I talked about the track already, but you gotta know about this iconic incident that happened in Formula 1. So back in 2006, Fernando Alonso, who was 24 at the time, raced on this track with Michael Schumacher, who at the time was 37 and held 7 road driver championships. So during the Grand Prix, they were both on the track racing. They came to the technical corner, the 130R. And it was at this corner that Alonso made a daring overtake onto Michael Schumacher. And everybody was screaming because they were so close to touching. It was ridiculous, and they were going at very high speeds because this corner is not only very technical, it's one of the fastest corners on the F1 roster. And that overtake paid off because he ended up on podium. He went from 16th place all the way up to 3rd place and got podium. He even ended up winning the World Drivers' Championship that year. That boy was ready, and reporters wanted to know. Everybody wanted to know. They're like, bro, like, why would you make that overtake on the fastest corner on like a 7-time world champion? And his response was, I knew he'd break. He has a wife and 2 kids. Gagged! I can't believe he said that. Like, what? Like, 24-year-olds are just built different. He's basically saying, I had nothing to lose. Like, if we crash, we crash. But I knew he'd wuss out because he has like a family waiting at home for him. And I'm hungry for podium. He's all like, I'm here to win. And he did. Oh my gosh, he actually ended up winning the championship the next year too. So that was iconic. People still talk about it to this day. Anyways, because Fernando Alonso became a father, he will not be participating in Free Practice 1. So they have a driver from F2 driving Alonso's car, the Aston Martin, for the session. And this is normal for them to do that. Usually drivers from like FP2 will drive a car during a free practice round. It's not every single time. I think it happens sporadically throughout the season. It's pretty standard in the season. And how I understand that to work is that the FP2 driver will pay to drive during the free practice session. There's always a lineup of people ready to, you know, take their money and to give an F2 driver the opportunity to drive a Formula 1 car, because Formula 1 cars and Formula 2 cars are different. Quick side note, Formula 2 cars, they all have the same engine, but Formula 1 cars, every single team makes like their own engine, or like gets their own engine and like tweaks it up and do all the upgrades. So all of their cars are like vastly different from each other. Even if you have the same team, one person will do a certain setup for their car and another person will do another setup for their car. Let's see. In Alpine, one of the races, they put an upgrade on Gasly's car just to try it out, but they didn't do it on Colapinto's car because they wanted him to just like stay with the same setup, and they like slightly tweak Gasly's setup to see if the upgrade made the car faster or not comparatively. Teams will just do different things for different drivers, so all of the cars are different, not like by much, but it's not like F2 where everybody has the same thing. So the F2 driver who's going to be sitting in for Fernando Alonso is Jack Crawford. We'll talk more about him at the end of the session. So the other significant things that happened during the session is that Norris's power unit was unsalvageable. And now he's on his second battery of the season, and they're only allowed to have 3 batteries per season. Bro, this is the 3rd race and you're already on your 2nd battery. Are you gonna make it to the end of the season? I'm just thought like, ooh, McLaren is not having a good time. Russell, Sainz, and Alonso are also on their 2nd battery, which isn't good. And Hadjar is on his 3rd battery. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, I don't know if the regulations are gonna change because everything is so new. The FIA might say, hey, we'll probably let you guys have some extra batteries because we understand that a lot's happening. And let's not forget what we learned in the last video, that most of these cars are running on Mercedes engines. I don't know if that has anything to do with any of the problems they're having. Maybe they correlate, maybe they don't. We're just stating back. During this practice session, I don't know if it was before or after, but Russell had a lot to say. He said that Red Bull looked overweight, according to some things that he's seen in the press last week, and that McLaren still has not brought any upgrades to their car since Bahrain, which was pre-season testing. So Russell's all like, they ain't nothing to worry about. We just gotta hit the ground running and keep doing what we do. He also said that Antonelli had a great race weekend last weekend because remember, he won his first Grand Prix last weekend. But George was like, I was a little annoyed that I wasn't the one on the top step. But then he was all like, but with all the trouble we had, like, we're just grateful that we got to finish on podium. He said, I saw it as 18 points gained, not 18 points lost. So I'm like, all right, Georgie boy, you said you were happy for him and now you're just like, I'm annoyed. Which, okay, I kind of get it, because when you are racing, whether or not it's your teammate, you're like, I want to be the one on the top step. Of course, it's good for our team, but as a driver, I also just want to win the championship. So all is fair in F1. Unless the racing stewards say no. And also Lando Norris said that he was confident that McLaren can get back on top even though they had a bad start this year. And I'm like, okay, Oscar has not even competed in a Grand Prix yet, and you have not gotten a podium, but you think you can have the best car? You know what? It's still early on in the season. Why not dream? And then immediately after, McLaren did so good during the session. It was insane. It's like they had upgrades. Their car was much quicker than it has been before. And Russell was like, like it took one to the chest. He said that McLaren's pace was a bit of a surprise. And I feel like in British terms, that means I was shocked. And so I was like, dang, George, you just ate your words. And even Norris was like, I thought we would be quicker. I don't know why we're so slow. I really thought we were gonna have the best car. He was disappointed. He wanted to be better than the performance that they put out during FP1. But I'm like, all right, guys, let's chill out a little bit. It is just free practice session 1. And the last interview I'm gonna cover for free practice 1 is Jack Crawford's interview, because this boy, he did the free practice session in place of Alonso. And to preface, only Adrian Newey has said the engine is shaky, and Fernando Alonso last race said, yeah, I couldn't drive it because of extreme discomfort. But they're being hush-hush. They're being mum. So when this F2 driver came to drive this F1 car, the reporters descended upon him and they're like, okay. They were like throwing softball at him. They're just like, okay, like little baby kisses, little baby kisses. Let's not pressure the boy too much. What's the difference between driving this F1 car and driving it in the sim? A sim is a simulator. Do you guys know what a simulator is? It gives you like a simulation of actually driving an F1 car, but you're not actually driving an F1 car. So when I say sim, it is a simulator. And side note, sim racing is definitely a real thing. Max Verstappen has his own sim racing team. They compete. I think they get prize money. I don't know much about it. What's it like driving a Formula 1 car compared to the sim? And Jack is like, this is paraphrased by the way, a simulator is a simulator and an F1 car is an F1 car. Of course it doesn't feel the same, it feels different. So then the reporters, this is the female reporter, she pushes a little bit more and she's like, yeah, but can you tell us the exact differences between a simulator and this F1 car that you drove? Just tell us the difference. And he says, well, I mean, when you're in a real car, you're in a real car. And when you're in a sim, you're in a sim. So that's the difference. And he was saying a lot of words. He was being very diplomatic and just trying to give a very rich answer. And so then another guy tries and he's all like, yeah, but can you tell us more though about just the differences of being in this F1 car for Aston Martin? Like, how does it feel like? And he's like, it feels great. I'm so grateful for Aston Martin to give me the opportunity to do this. This is crazy. I love them so much. And I'm like, Jack, blink twice if you need help. They're not letting up. And the third reporter, he's been a motorsports champion. I don't know which motorsports he participated in, but he went in for the kill. This man basically said, so we've seen the data. We know that Aston Martin is having problems with their engines. That is quite shaky. We heard what Fernando Alonso had to say. Can you tell us how it feels to be in that kind of car? And that boy, he was trained. I swear, it's like someone sat him down in a dark room and they're like, okay, if anyone asks you about this is exactly what you're gonna say. You're gonna say nothing but everything at once. Like, you're gonna say nothing about nothing, but you're gonna just like say words. And do not ever forget to say words, but tell them no information. It's like they gave him a shakedown because this boy did not blink when they asked them like, hey, so we've seen the data, the engine's shaky, can you tell us more about that? This boy's all like, well, yeah. Well, our goal, first of all, is to get across the finish line. That is basically what we want to do in this car. We are looking for solutions to make improvements to get it to the finish line because Aston Martin has not finished a race. Is that facts? I don't know. Let me look. Because Aston Martin has not finished a race. In Australia, it says that Stroll finished, but he finished like 2 laps down. And they did bring him into the pits for a while, and then they sent him back out. So technically, you're not even part of the race anymore. You're just out there for data. So you didn't do the whole Grand Prix. Now they finished a sprint, but a sprint is only 19 laps. So they have not finished a Grand Prix race in its entirety, which is why Crawford gave that answer. He's like, we just want to finish a race. We're not even asking for much. We are literally just putting in all our resources to figure out how to finish this race. And as he's talking, you can just tell like he's like recalling memory, which is why I'm all like, someone trained this boy and they're like, don't say anything about this engine. We're just looking for solutions. We're gonna do our best and we're gonna get this car across the finish line. And I'm like, wow, what an inspiration. And by now, he has said so little about what they're gonna do. He has said so little about any engine problems that the reporters just move on to talk about the weather. They start asking like, do you think it's gonna rain? Or what do you think the weather's gonna be like? It's been boiling hot. And so I thought it was gonna be cold. Do you think it's gonna be cold? And I'm like, this boy's not even going to be in the race, but they're like, let's just get some insight for you and talk about the weather since you don't wanna talk about engines. I am just like, wow. I want to be so well trained or like so eloquently spoken. I would love to have that. Maybe I need to be PR trained. I don't know. I'm like, who is your trainer, Jack? I need to know. Anyways, the rest of the session, also just a whole weekend, a lot of people are speculating and they're very excited about McLaren. They're like, oh my gosh, they won the Constructor Championship last year and they won the Driver Championship last year. And they also won it in 2024. Remember what I said what the constructor championship is? It's the team championship. So because they won it the last 2 years, everyone is like, are they back? Are they back? Because they're doing really good this session. Are they back? This is what people want to know. And then we move on to FP2. Now, FP2, everybody had issues. Everybody had issues. I mean, it wasn't everybody, but it was too many people had issues. Bortoleto had no time on the board because he had a hydraulics issue. Norris and Perez had brake issues. And Lindblad had a gearbox issue. And I forgot to say, because I wrote this down in the wrong section, this is also a track purely for F1 drivers. So Jack Crawford, it was his first time on this track. Arvid Lindblad is also his first time on this track because only F1 teams drive on this track. It was a great opportunity for both of them. However, Lindblad having a gearbox issue did not help him. Although when he had an issue in China where he only had one free practice session, he ended up getting 12th place in the Grand Prix. So we'll see how he does. Even if he misses this session, he already did FP1. And so let's take a look to see if he gets it fixed by FP3. So those are the issues in FP2. Now FP3 rolls around. And guess who's on the block? It's Damon Hill. I say that like I know him. I really don't know who this person is. However, I know a little bit of lore. He won the championship with Williams 30 years ago. And so he has come in to be the team ambassador. Now, the person who was Williams' team ambassador was Jenson Button. However, he went over to Aston Martin before the season started. This is a speculation I have. Maybe it's for different reasons, but the speculation I had of why he joined Aston Martin's and left Williams is because he thought what everyone else thought. Aston Martin has Adrian Newey. They're paying him so much money to build a winning engine, just like he did for Red Bull. And Aston Martin got the Honda engine, which has produced a world championship driver for more than 1 year in a row. I feel like Jenson Button saw those two winning combinations and he just, he said, I'm gonna head out. And he ran over to Aston Martin because he's all like, well, I mean, they're paying a lot of money and they have a legendary car maker and they have a really good engine. So if that's where the bags are at, that's where the bags are at. Because of this, Damien Hill got plucked out of retirement or whatever he was doing. They were like, you need to come back because we need a team ambassador for Williams. We are struggling. We are like the heaviest car. We are not doing well in the Grand Prix or the sprint. We just can't even get out of Q3. We just need somebody here to talk to us, to like help us get through. And who better than a former world champion with Williams? And it's Damon Hill. And these three reporters, one female and two males. And so they start interviewing him. And he keeps saying that people keep asking him, what's it like to be back? Do you ever forget the feeling of winning? And how does today's car compare to the car he drove when he won the championship? And this man, as he's explaining it, it's just like, oh, you seem tired. He's like, I just got back and people just keep asking me the same questions. It felt to me like he was saying, like, I'm just tired of people asking me these things. And then one of the interviewers immediately goes and said, oh, yeah, that's cool. So how's it like being back? I am like, ask him something original. He literally says he already answered these questions multiple times. Ask him something different. And this man, oh my gosh, I can't even remember if he gave an answer. He said words. I don't even know if he like truly answered it. I was just shocked that right after this man says, this is what everyone's been asking me. And this reporter's first thought was like, cool, I'm gonna ask you the same thing too. Why? Someone in the studio give him a different question. And they did. The other reporters asked him more so about his role in the Williams team. They're like, okay, so what do you think Williams has to do to like get ahead, to get back in the game? Because they were the top of the midfield teams last year. How do they get back to that? And Hill said they really just need to have a pep talk. Like, of course you need car upgrades, you need to have more data, understand what you could do to like cut down weight and all this jazz. But he says the drivers have to be motivated. Also, the crew in the garage has to be motivated because when the time comes for a driver to have the opportunity to get ahead, I did that overtake because I was hungry for podium. But if your driver's not hungry for podium and they're just like, well, we're too behind, we'll never get ahead, then they're not going to take it. Because a break is coming up, they're asking him about car upgrades and all this jazz. And he said, of course, it makes sense that they would do car upgrades. They would do all these things. And of course, keep their drivers and their crew motivated that they can still win this, that they're still in the game. And mind you, this is only race number 3. So I'm just like, dang, like it's been a tough start for everyone. I just feel like McLaren is like, I just don't know what to do with this car. Like, I can't even keep the battery on. And William is all like, this car is so heavy. And it's just all these different things. And to be fair, for the previous years, this season's car is the lightest it's ever been in previous years, not like in the history of F1. I don't know. I did not fact check that, but this is one of the lightest cars because the car used to be wider and now it's like slimmer. The tires used to be bigger, now they're smaller. So a lot of things have been changed to make the car more compact. It makes a lot of sense that there are a lot of issues. They're trying to fit everything into the car and then ending up being overweight is hard. It's hard. And people are just doing their best. So I agree with Damien Hill. Like, give these people pep talks because they have been working around the clock and they just need a little bit of hope, you know? They asked him, what teams look good to you right now? And his answer was obviously Mercedes. Like, do you see how they're getting podiums like every single race? Like, of course it's Mercedes. And then he said, but McLaren is starting to creep up their ranks. We gotta watch out for them. And it's true because Piastri got the fastest time on the board. We gotta watch out, we gotta pay attention. We gotta see what's gonna happen. Also, during this practice session, Oliver Behrman had a bit of a spin and he almost went into the barrier, but he was able to recover his car and stay in the practice session. Let's just say a little fun fact. Haas has a Godzilla on their car for this track, and it's really cool. Another fun fact is Kimi is only 4 points behind George in a championship. George has come into this race being the championship leader for the first time in his career, and his teammate Kimi is only 4 points behind him because Kimi won the last Grand Prix. And now it's round number 3. Let's see if George can keep his lead, or if Kimi's gonna creep up behind him and overtake him. Now let's talk about qualifying. Okay, for qualifying, I'm gonna talk about it in 3 sessions. And so I am gonna talk about qualifying this time because the commentators were savage. They came for everybody. As soon as Q1 started, they said, yeah, look, Fernando Alonso, just a new dad, he's back on track. And you know what? Ain't it embarrassing that he outqualified his teammate for the last 2 years? And Alonso's the oldest one on the grid. He's 44, by the way. Usually, F1 drivers don't drive past 44 in the more recent years. I know when F1 started, people were just old. But recently, usually drivers stop driving around the age of 40. So Fernando Alonso is the oldest driver on the grid, 44. People keep making fun of him. However, Lewis Hamilton is 41, right behind him. So if Alonso ever retires, Lewis Hamilton will be the oldest one on the grid, and he's gonna start getting canes. Because that's what they did to Alonso. They keep sending him canes as like gifts. They're like, here's a cane because you're so old. Savage. Anyways, let's get back to the savage reporters. They didn't say the word embarrassing, but they implied it very heavily. The way they were talking, they're like, why is Alonso just out-qualifying his teammate time and time again for the last 2 years since they've been teammates? Has Stroll ever out-qualified Alonso? They said all this stuff, right? And right as Q1 ended, Stroll had out-qualified Alonso. It wasn't by much. It was, Alonso was P22 and Stroll was P21. But he still out-qualified him. And then they found something else to yap about. They're like, well, like, Aston Martin has been having a really bad weekend anyway, so, like, it's amazing that they're still here. They both suck, is, like, what they were trying to say. I just want to say, can y'all calm down? Then at the end of Q1, right before Q1 ended, they said, dang, it's the usual 6 at the bottom, ain't it? The usual 6? So you have Aston Martin down there because, like, their car is very interesting this year. And then you have Cadillac, who's a new Formula 1 team. And then you have Williams, who is overweight. And they're like, ain't it just the usual suspects down at the bottom at Q1? The ones who usually get eliminated every single time. Ain't that them? Will they ever get out of Q1? Q1 can just end. We already know who's getting eliminated. And then Carlos Sainz, who's part of the Williams team, jumps out of the drop zone and Behrman falls into it and Behrman gets eliminated and they are shocked. They're like, oh, Behrman? Not Behrman? Oh my god, like someone get down to that garage right now. Find out why Behrman was eliminated. We need to know. Does he have a car engine problem? Is his car okay? Like what's happening? Is his head in the game? Not Behrman. Anyone but him. And to be fair, Behrman wasn't driving that great on this track for this season. I think last season he did well on this track. He apparently was in the top 10 the last time they were in Japan. So last season when he was a rookie, he scored within the points. During the FP practices, I don't know, I'm just all like, were the vibes off? He just wasn't feeling it. And that's fine. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just don't drive well during like free practice and qualifying and then you tear it up on the racetrack. That's okay. But I am saying, the commentators, anytime they make a negative comment at somebody, a miracle happens. Like the opposite happened to like Stroll qualifying Alonso, or both Williams not being eliminated in Q1. And I will say for the other Williams who got eliminated, it was Alex Albon. When they gave him the news that he did not make it out of Q1, he said, okay, so how did Carlos do? And they said, about as well as you think he did. And he said, okay, well, I've been telling you guys for the last 3 races, because he's counting the sprint, that something is up with the car. It doesn't feel right, but you guys keep saying it's my driving style, so like sure, whatever. I guess that's just gonna be my answer. And I am like, Alex, that's not cool. How come they're saying it's your driving style? It sounds sad. He sounded like very sad and frustrated. I think the commentators were like, oh, he's complaining. And I was like, I feel like he's saying something very valid. Because if he was complaining, he would be like, well, I should have been faster. It should have been me out of Q1. But he said, no, I'm telling you guys that there is an issue with the car and you guys keep telling me it's my driving style. I feel like that's facts. I don't know. He's been driving for a long time. If the car feels off, he would probably know about it. I kind of understand both sides because Carlos joined the Williams teams last year. And during that year, he got 3 podiums in a Williams. Unheard of. And it was amazing. But Alex didn't get podiums. I'm pretty sure he is a consistent point scorer, but I can't remember how he did last season. So I will say that it makes sense that they would want to invest a little bit more effort into Carlos Sainz since he's shown that he can get podiums. And Alex, you're just gonna kind of have to get the leftovers because we want to win. Look, has my collar been up this whole time? So it makes sense. But also, if you've been driving for a team for so long and they're just favoring the other driver, you're like, well, I've committed so much time to you guys and I'm just asking you for this one thing, fix this one thing in my car, and you're gaslighting me. That makes sense. They're like, it's just your driving style. I don't know what's going on in the Williams garage. Only they will really know what's up, but I understand both sides. I understand why you would want to invest in Carlos, but I also understand Albon's frustration with the whole situation. The last thing I'll say about Q1 is that Russell says the car feels off. We don't know what's going on, but he did go up to Q2, so there's that. Now we're in Q3, and Russell is still having issues. He says that the car doesn't feel comfortable and that he can't find grip in the rear of the car and that he's losing pace. Now, Max Verstappen, who has gotten pole position for the last 4 years in Japan and has also got race wins all those times. So he seems to be struggling with his car too. He is fighting loads of understeer. Something's going on. He says the car doesn't feel comfortable to drive, that something is off. And then he gets knocked out of Q2 by Lindblad. He is in the drop zone and he does not make it out of Q2, but Lindblad does. And I am like, dang, something better be wrong with that car. But also, like, I'm not even worried about Max. Max can start from the pit lane and still make it to the top 5 or even get podium. I'm not worried about Max. I'm like, you know what? If the car's undrivable, you will drag it across the finish line anyways. He's just that driver. He's that guy. So now we're in Q3, which is what the commentators call the top 10 shootout. I don't know if that's an official term, but they always call it the top 10 shootout and they're always very excited about that. For the top 10 shootout in Q3, it is Mercedes leading the pack, McLaren, Ferrari, Hadjar, Gasly, Bortoleto, and Lawson. That's 7, but I didn't count the teams. And so everybody is going all out. They are like, we're not trying to save the batteries. We are using up every single charge we have to get across this finish line and get a good time on the board. They're like, they're not playing. But But Ferrari played around too much. They did a little too much and they pushed their car too hard. By the end of the lap, they had ran out of batteries and their pace slowed down considerably, keeping Mercedes within the top two. And I just want to note that Russell is still saying that he has car issues. And on their last push, Charles Leclerc has this driving style. He really likes to throw his cars into the corner. He really likes to let his car slide a bit. So he's been doing that all weekend, like all free practice sessions, and he's been doing it in qualifying. And the commentators are freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, what if he slides into the barrier? And I'm like, babe, then he'll slide into the barrier. Calm down. He's gonna be fine. Anywho, with all of that reckless driving, Ferrari still couldn't improve their time. Mercedes is still on top and Ferrari was going to be right behind them, but Oscar Piastri improved his time. However, it is a Mercedes front row lockout again. This time with Kimi Antonelli in the front. Again! So this is his second pole position in 2 races. He got the pole position in China and now he got the pole position in Japan. This boy is doing great. You get a little trophy if you get pole position. And if you're within the top 3 of qualifying, you get interviewed. It's almost like getting a podium, but you didn't get a podium. You're just like, okay, we're in the top 3, so we're positioned very well to be podium finishers, but we don't know. So it's Kimi, Russell, and Piastri. They interviewed Kimi first. Kimi said he was very happy with getting pole position. He feels very good in the car. Things are going to be great. Russell says they made a disastrous car setup after FP3 and it changed the whole feeling of the car and made him lose some pace. He's like, we gotta figure it out. But ultimately, okay, we got a front row lockout, which is good, but we gotta figure something out. And don't forget, there's Parc Fermé after qualifying and before the Grand Prix. There's a period of time where teams cannot work on their car. So I am not exactly clear if they can change the setup that was made, but we'll find out if his setup got changed or if they just took the L. But anyways, the setup change they made ended up giving Russell severe rear instability. Now Piastri, let's not forget, he has not competed in a Grand Prix since the season started. He's only done a sprint. And now he did qualifying and he is P3. And he's all like, I'm super happy. He says this weekend is looking good. We still can't match Mercedes, but like we're getting close. Good job, Oscar. And then to end the interview, the interviewer went back up to Kimi. He's all like, hey, Italians all around the world is gonna be watching your race tomorrow. But what do you have to say to the fans here, to the Japanese fans? And he's all like, thank you so much for being here. It's always a joy. Like this boy was PR trained. He gassed them up. He was like, this is great. Then he's like, arigato. And everybody lost their minds. They're like, ah! Anyways, it's very exciting. Alright, here's your race day recap. Little things to know before the race. This will be the first time this season that all 22 cars start. So that's very exciting. No one has any issues that will keep them from participating in this race, which is a huge win. Like, yay, finally, like, we've mastered the new regulations and we're all out on the track for race day. However, the race was delayed for 10 minutes because one of the barriers needed to be repaired. Before the Formula One race, there was another motorsporting race at the same track. It was for Porsche Carrera Cup. Carrera Cup. A race for the Porsche Cup was held. Apparently, something happened with the barrier, so they had to repair the barrier before the race. So the race was just delayed by 10 minutes as they finished repairing the barrier and getting it ready for race time. Now, I just want to reiterate that Kimi Antonelli is only 4 points behind George Russell in the championships. George is leading, Kimi's right behind him, 4-point gap. Here we go. Now, the 5 lights go on. Boop, 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 boop. And the lights are out, and the race starts. And when it started, Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc just launched. They took off down the track. They passed Kimi Antonelli and George Russell, and Hamilton was right behind them. So all 3 of them, they just launched off the line. It's Piastri, Leclerc, and Hamilton. Kimi dropped down to 6th place because he had a poor launch, along with George Russell, who dropped down to 4th place. And it looks like Max Verstappen finally mastered launching during this race, so he didn't lose any positions. Now, because of the good launch Piastri got, he is now the race leader. He went from 3rd, whoop, all the way up to 1st, and now he's leading the race. That's our boy. By lap number 2, Antonelli is running. He overtook Hamilton for 5th place. Lindblad is up to 8th place. And the Audis also got a poor launch, and they are like down 3 places. And Hadjar and Verstappen are fighting for 9th place. By lap 3, we learned that Russell ain't playing today. He is up to 3rd place, and he is chasing Piastri and Leclerc. And now, by lap 4, everybody is in a dog fight. Antonelli is attacking Norris for 4th place. Russell has just overtaken Leclerc for 2nd place. And Verstappen and Ocon has overtaken Hadjar for 9th and 10th place. And Verstappen is coming after Lindblad for 8th. By lap 5, Verstappen overtakes Lindblad for 8th, and Ocon follows suit and overtakes Lindblad as well, and now is in 9th place. By lap 7, Norris is catching up to Leclerc for 3rd, and Russell is right on the back of Piastri, and if Russell has the pace, he can overtake Piastri for 1st. Now let's cover race pace very quick. So race pace, I couldn't find a definition online for race pace. Maybe you guys can find it. Maybe you guys are like more savvy than I am. I couldn't find a definition. What I have gathered what race pace means using context clues is basically the speed you're going at for a certain lap. The speed you go per lap. So let's say you are in 3rd place and your speed is consistent throughout the lap, throughout the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd sector of the racetrack. And you're either consistent or you're getting faster. So that would be your race pace. Whatever time you have on the board, it's all like, oh, you're going at a good pace. You're gaining seconds. You're not losing any seconds. Or you're maintaining your lap time. That's kind of what I think race pace is. So basically just the pace you are going at during the race. And it's either consistently you're going the same speed or you're getting faster. Okay, now lap 8. Lindblad has not given up. He is coming after Ocon to retake 8th position. And during this lap, something iconic happens. So you remember how Piastri is in front of Russell and they're in 1st place and 2nd place. Piastri and Russell are just like racing through the corners and like the straights. And then all of a sudden, it looks like Russell gets the upper hand and he goes and overtakes Piastri. But then in the corner, Piastri ended up doing a braking move. Remember, braking charges battery. He like ended up braking and then whoom! I don't know what it is. Was it the turbo? Was it the boost? I don't know. But he flawlessly overtakes Russell and just maintains the lead. It's almost as if he let Russell overtake him. As in like, I'm not gonna fight him out in the corners. I'm just gonna recharge my battery and then overtake him when we come out of that corner. And he did. He did. And the commentators were all like, oh my gosh! And I was like, ah! That's our polite cat! My other racing friend, she calls Oscar Piastri a polite cat. And I just have to agree. He's always very like calm, cool, collected, and put together. He is quite a polite cat. Very fitting name, but very embarrassing for Russell. How are you going to be the championship leader for the last 2 races in the sprint and then let someone who hasn't even raced in a Grand Prix overtake you like that? Other than the sprint race, Piastri hasn't raced anybody. He's only done qualifying and practice rounds, and you let him show you up? Embarrassing. But whatever. That's just personal opinion. However, the commentator was like, it's not even a fight. Piastri had you. Piastri had you! So Piastri stays in the lead and Russell's still within a second behind him. By lap 10, the top 5 are Piastri, Russell, Leclerc, Norris, and Antonelli. And the top 4 are separated by less than a second. So anything can happen. By lap 11, Norris decides to attack Leclerc for 3rd place. And this is when we find out that Russell seems to be battling an oversteer. Because remember, after FP3, he made a slight adjustment to his setup. And then in qualifying, it showed that that was the wrong move and he was struggling through all the qualifying sessions. And now, because of Parc Fermé, you can't change your setup unless you want a penalty. So Russell is battling oversteer because he decided not to change his setup. And so we'll just see how that affects him during the race. By lap 12, Antonelli overtakes Norris for 4th. And Hadjar is attacking Lindblad for 10th. Lap 14, Antonelli is attacking Leclerc for 3rd place. And he is fighting to get back to the top of the grid order. And Verstappen is also having some kind of car issue. He says that it feels like he's driving without power steering, so we'll see how that affects his race. By lap 15, Piastri says that if he can hold track position, the race is his. I have a really good pace going. Let's see if we can hold track position and get this race in the bag. And there's speculation that Piastri made this radio call because pit stops are coming up. And so this race is a one-stop race. And I'm guessing most drivers are going to start on medium tires and then move on to hard tires for the long haul. Just like you start off with the medium tire, you go as quick as you can, you get a good track position, then you put the hard tires on and you just go for the long haul. And there's speculation that Piastri should undercut Russell. Undercutting is when you pit earlier than your rivals. So since Piastri and Russell are like racing like back to back, like within a second of each other, if Piastri pits first, he'll have the fresher tires and he'll be able to get back in front of Russell and maintain the lead, because then Russell's going to have to pit and it's going to put him in the back of the pack. So there's speculation that this could be the strategy that McLaren is going to go for with Piastri, but nothing is sure. The next lap, the team is asking Piastri, like, when do you want to pit? Because if you think you can stay in the lead, let us know how your tires are doing. Let us know more about your race pace. Like, let us know more of your thoughts. It's kind of like they're asking him to make his own strategy, because usually teams have all the data of your car and they're looking at it during the race. And usually they'll tell you, like, if you have an issue, if you have a problem, or if you tell them, hey, something feels weird, they can like look at all the data and like figure it out and then help you adjust your car as you're driving. Piastri responds, if they can keep going on the tires that he has, they should. He's basically saying the tires feel fine. I feel like this is a really good pace. If the data doesn't show that my tires are wearing out really fast, then we should just keep going and we shouldn't pit. The radio calls are short. So this is me speculating on what these like short little messages can mean, like just the more broader meaning behind them. And a little bit after Piastri responds to that radio call, Russell starts to fall back. He starts to lose lap time, as in his race pace is struggling. We don't know why, but we're just like, what's going on, Russell? Like, do you need to switch your tires? We, as in the viewers, and when I say the viewers, I mean me. I watch F1 alone at home. So I'm all like, maybe he needs to switch his tires. If he's losing the race pace, maybe there's a problem with something else. Or he needs to switch his tires. Anywho, from lap 17 to 19, a bunch of drivers dive into the pit lane. And by lap 20, the top 5 are Russell, Antonelli, Hamilton, Gasly, Verstappen. By lap 21, Piastri is fighting to overtake Verstappen for P5. He ends up overtaking Verstappen and is now hunting down Gasly for P4. Russell dives into the pit during lap 21, and Antonelli is now the race leader. Then lap 22, the yellow flag comes out. And we're like, wait, why did the yellow flag come out? What's going on? What's happening? Is there debris on the track? Did someone's car stop again? Like the last couple races, people's cars have just been dying. Like, did someone's car died, and whose car died? And the camera pans over, and you can see it's Behrman in the barriers right at the entrance to the 130R. Remember, that's the fastest, most technical corner in the F1 season. We don't know what's going on. And then the safety car comes out and you're like, oh, snap, like what happened? Everybody else's car is going this way, but his car is like into the wall, facing the other way, and you're like, oh snap, did he spin? Did he crash out? What happened? And then the replay comes out. And the replay happened a few laps after this, but I'm just gonna tell you about the replay now because who needs suspense in their life? So the replay comes out and the replay says that Behrman and Colapinto was duking it out. And so the two were fighting it out full speed on the straight. And Behrman was chasing Colapinto. And Colapinto, because he's on the straight, his battery was not charged. He cannot keep at full speed because his battery's just drained. I guess he didn't charge it in the corners. I don't know what happened, but he slows down suddenly. And because he suddenly slows down, Behrman had to take evasive maneuvers and he turned out of the way to not hit Colapinto, but ends up hitting boom, 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 all these signs. So he's in the grass and he tries to turn back onto the track. And I'm guessing he turned a little bit too much because he was going at a very high speed. He turned a little bit too much and his car just skids across the track, slams into the barrier. And then all you can see is Behrman gets out of the car, but he's like limping. And all of a sudden the track marshals are the people who stand by the track, like on the other side of the barrier. So if there's any debris on the track that needs to be removed, if there's a car that needs to be removed or a car on the side that needs to be removed, the track marshals are on it. So the track marshals go and they help him and he's leaning on them for support. And you're like, oh my God. Is he okay? Is he actually okay? And then he just like he's all like, wait a minute. He just like plops down and sits down and it's like he's trying to catch his breath, like he's trying to breathe. And you are like, are you okay? What's going on? And as standard procedure, when a safety car comes out, teams will pit their drivers because the pit time loss is minimal. I talked about pit time stops in my last video. So everyone dives into the pit, and for 2 laps, people are pitting and doing what they need to do. Meanwhile, during this time, we're still waiting to hear if Behrman's gonna be okay. And the next kind of communication we get that's not from a commentator is Russell. And he's on the radio screaming, "Unbelievable!" And it was not because of Behrman's crash. It was because he pitted before the safety car. I don't know how to feel about this. Maybe it's because I saw the crash happen. Maybe it's because I saw Behrman like wobbling around like Bambi. I was like, that boy is shook. His life flashed before his eyes. That's what it felt like. And Russell was upset that he pitted before the safety car. I was like, did you ask if Behrman's okay? Did you check on Behrman? Did you ask your team like what happened? All I hear is unbelievable. And I am just like, that's unbelievable. That would be your reaction. And his team, I swear Toto Wolff said this, but I can't prove it. But Toto Wolff or somebody on his team said, super unlucky. And I'm like, did his life flash before his eyes? Did he crash into the barriers? I don't think he did. Even the commentators were like, yeah, that kind of sucked that Mercedes pitted before the safety car came out. Why did they pit so early? What were they thinking? What was their strategy? And I'm like, guys, really? We're gonna talk about this now? And I get like, okay, the commentators do need something to talk about because nobody's racing full on, no one's overtaking anybody else, and we're still waiting to hear news about Behrman. But still, I'm just like, Russell, you need to chill out. That's wildly inappropriate. Like, I would understand if the safety car came out because there was debris on the track or like someone had pulled over because their car died. I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, that does suck that you pitted before the safety car, and like that is super unlucky and that is unbelievable. Like, that sucks, right? But I'm like, the safety car was because of a crash. A driver got injured. Hey, that sucked, but also, is Behrman okay? Someone needs to issue a press release. What is happening with Behrman? But I guess if you are a driver and you are 4 points in the lead in the championship and you are battling oversteer and you got a bad start to the race and you're trying to like get back to the top of the grid order and you just pitted and then you find out, oh, actually, if you had waited like a few more laps, you would have gotten a free pit stop. I guess we can kind of justify his reaction. I was mad. Literally, this is your reaction? You're not even gonna check to see if the kid's okay? Also, I don't know why everyone's so worried about the Mercedes pit stop. Literally, there are 30 laps left in this race. Anything could happen, so why are we like, why did Mercedes make that pit stop? That was so unlucky. Why did they pit before the safety car? They should have waited, blah, 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 blah. Unbelievable, super unlucky. Babe, there's 30 laps left. Let's calm down, take a chill pill, and just keep doing what you do. You're not even that far in the back. You're like within the top 10. You can make this happen. I didn't even write down the track position Russell was in because I was like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Behrman can't even walk and y'all worried about a pit stop? And Oscar Piastri, who was a race leader, had a pit stop before that safety car too. And you wanna know what his reaction was? He said, what did he say? He didn't blame anyone on his team. He said that they still have time to end well, and he thanked his team. He was all like, thank you everybody, everyone did a great job. When I tell you this man is such a polite cat, I mean it. Like, that was his reaction. He's all like, oh well, I guess let's just keep doing what we do, and thank you everybody for your hard work. What a stark difference. And if you don't believe me that these were their reactions, I put some links down below to some articles where the drivers talk about how they felt about that safety car. I'm not just making stuff up, I'm coming in with the facts. The only thing that made this moment better for me, because they were racing in Suzuka, it's in Japan, the track marshals are Japanese, and so they came out with like these like brooms and they were just sweeping up the track, and I was like, oh, this is healing my soul. I don't know what it is. I'm like, you guys are working so hard to like get the race back on track. You guys helped out Behrman. I really appreciate you guys. It's great. It just cleaned out my heart. All right, so by lap 26, the lap cars are allowed to unlap themselves. And in case I haven't explained what lapped cars are and how they unlap themselves, here it is. So basically, because the track is a loop, the fastest drivers are going at such high speeds, they will meet the back marker team. So the people are at the back of the pack. So P1 will eventually meet up with P22. P1 is the fastest car on the track. They're eventually going to pass P22, P21, P20, and keep going and lap those cars. And when the P1 driver passes the cars in the back, those cars in the back now become lapped cars. So because it's not only the P1 driver who's lapping cars, it's the drivers that are right behind them, like within the top 5, top 6, they're all lapping the back marker teams. Right? So during a safety car, because everybody has slowed down, the safety car will get out in front of the race leader. So the race leader will be in the front, and then it will be like 2, 3, and maybe some of like the lapped cars like mixed within all the other cars. And so when the racing stewards, the people who oversee the race and make sure everyone is safe, they will determine at a certain point that the lapped cars can unlap themselves, which basically means that wherever they are in the bunches of cars, they can overtake all these other cars, and then they can go to the back of the pack. So now it's a single file line of fastest to slowest. So now that cars have unlapped themselves and they're all nice and neat in a row from fastest to slowest, after the safety car gets off the track and they pass the start finish line, the racing can start again. The drivers can go at full speed and the race will commence. Now, as the cars are unlapping themselves, Russell's on the radio asking, hey, is Kimi gonna do the strategy we agreed on before? Like, what's he thinking? I need to know what's going on so that way I can get back to the top of the grid order. And it seems like we don't know what Kimi's gonna do. We're gonna find out together. So the top 3 during the safety car is Antonelli, Piastri, and Russell. And by lap 28, the safety car has dived into the pits and the drivers cross the start finish line, and Hamilton, who was lurking in 4th place, overtakes Russell for 3rd. And then by lap 29, Verstappen and Gasly are fighting for 7th place. By lap 31, Stroll retires the car, but his teammate Alonso is still out on track, meaning that the Aston Martin is going further than they ever had. Usually they'd be retired by now, they'd be off the track, but the fact that Fernando Alonso is still driving the car means that, is it getting less shaky? Oh, hold on, I didn't tell you a fun fact. Fun fact. When I talked about this track, I said that this track was a Honda test site for the Honda F1 engine. So that means that the Honda engine, which has been making the Aston Martin car so shaky, has their test site here. They have their factory here, so they can look at the cars directly and see what the problem is and make adjustments and hopefully find a solution. So I'm guessing that's why Alonso is still able to stay out on track, because maybe they gave him some kind of solution to the shaky engine. We'll find out after the race, I guess, if he finishes the race. So the top 5 are Antonelli, Piastri, Hamilton, Russell, and Leclerc. By lap 32, Russell is coming for Hamilton to get back on podium, but Hamilton is busy going after Piastri. By lap 33, we finally hear back about Behrman. Haas released a statement saying that Behrman had a 50G crash. 50 Gs, guys, that's a lot of Gs. Usually they go 5 to 6 Gs on the track. 50 Gs. I don't know if that's a typo. I looked into it. As of now, it says that he had a 50G crash and he is headed to get x-rayed to make sure nothing is broken. It sounds like he's fine so far. The preliminary checkup didn't show anything life-changing, but we'll see what happens after the x-rays. By lap 37, Antonelli is 5 seconds in the lead, and Leclerc has overtaken Russell for 4th place. And he was able to overtake Russell because Russell's car just started slowing down out of nowhere. After the race, they said that Russell's car slowed down due to a software bug in his Mercedes power unit that caused a super clip. I don't know what that means. It just sounds like he's driving a giant computer. What do you mean he has a software bug? I don't know. I'm gonna let y'all look that up yourself. By lap 40, the top 4 are Antonelli, Piastri, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Russell. Leclerc is attacking Hamilton for 3rd. I feel like these guys are best buds. Like, they're having such a bromance where they just keep fighting each other constantly. The last 2 races, they're just constantly fighting each other. Here they are again. Round number 3, they're fighting each other again. And by lap 41, we learned that Russell and his racing engineer have been working to fix the issues that Russell has been having in his car. By lap 42, Leclerc and Hamilton have almost made contact twice. because that's how they dance. They dance pretty close to each other. I remember in China where Lewis was all like, yeah, we did have like a little touch, just a kiss. And so I'm just like, all right, well, they've hit each other before and it's been fine, so do what you do. At the end of the scuffle, Leclerc comes out as a victor. And say what you want about Leclerc, he did ask for team orders saying that like his pace was faster and they should let him overtake Hamilton, but the team was like, nah, y'all can duke it out. And so Leclerc wasn't wrong. He did have the faster pace because he did come out on top. By lap 43, Russell overtakes Hamilton for 4th place. And because of the fight that Hamilton just had with Leclerc, Hamilton doesn't have enough battery to fight it out with Russell. And remember what I said a few races back where I said Russell's the type who lurks. If he sees people fighting in front of him, he will wait until they tire each other out and then he'll just overtake. So, classic Russell. By lap 45, for some reason, Hamilton did a little dip off the track. I don't know what was going on. Over the radio, he told his team that he's been having a deployment issue. And maybe that's the reason he's been so easy to overtake lately. And by lap 46, looking at the back of the pack, Lawson has gotten up to 9th place. He wasn't even in the top 10. And now he is. So good job, Lawson. By lap 47, Antonelli is 13 seconds in the lead. 13. Guys, that's a lot. It's a lot. And Russell and Leclerc are fighting it out for 3rd. By lap 48, we see Behrman again. He looks okay. It looks like he's doing good. I'll tell you the deets after the race of what's up with him. Back on the track, Norris and Hamilton are duking it out. By lap 49, Russell and Leclerc are still dancing around for 3rd place. By lap 51, Russell overtakes Leclerc. But Leclerc doesn't give up. He keeps fighting. And there's only 2 laps left. And as I said before, Mercedes is quick on the straights, but Ferrari dominates the corners. And Leclerc has been throwing himself into corners all weekend. And that's what he did. He threw himself into the corner and he overtook Russell. And sorry, I shouldn't laugh, because I'm just having a flashback to when Piastri overtook Russell in the corners. And now Ferrari is overtaking Russell in the corners. And so Mercedes, y'all need to fix y'all corner issue, because y'all can't just keep getting overtaken in the corners like that. And now Charles Leclerc has kept his podium place. If Leclerc holds his place for 2 more laps, he will make podium. By lap 52, Norris overtakes Hamilton for 4th place. By lap 53, the last lap here, guys, Kimi Antonelli became the youngest driver to ever lead a Formula 1 championship in terms of points. This boy is just breaking all the records. He's literally just smashing them to bits. He's all like, 2nd season, all I needed was a trial run. The 1st season, I got this. This boy is dominating. And Piastri comes in 2nd. Piastri, this is his first race all season in a new car. This is his first full race. And I am just like, you came in 2nd? And this boy was like, when we start these things, we do pretty good. And I am like, Piastri! And he also ended up being the driver of the day. And then because Leclerc did the fastest 2nd sector of the race, he was able to keep his podium place and he got 3rd. Nice job, Leclerc. And the podium places are Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, and Kimi Antonelli. And now let's pour one out, or send one up, to the ones who did not finish the race. The first person out of the race was Behrman. And this is Behrman's update. He had a 50G impact and suffered a knee contusion. So Stroll retired at lap 31 due to a suspected water pressure issue with his Aston Martin. But he said that he enjoyed his time on Suzuka. That is a very fun track. And that him and Alonso are having their own little Aston Martin championship. What a sense of humor. Like, what a great attitude to have about the situation he's in. So great job for staying enthusiastic. All right, so let's do post-race interviews. So Damon Hill is doing the race interviews for this race. During the interview, Antonelli acknowledged that he has to practice dropping his clutch because that was his issue at the start. He didn't drop the clutch fast enough. He told Toto that he would practice dropping the clutch during their upcoming break. That's happening because the 2 races were canceled, so they have about a month or a 5-week span where they can fix whatever they need to fix. But he did say that, and the only one who was benefited by the safety car was Kimi Antonelli, and he acknowledges that too. He's like, it was a bad start, but the safety car was good, and then the pace after the safety car was just incredible. And it was. That boy was flying. He was 13 seconds ahead of everybody. And he even acknowledges that. He's like, I don't know how the race would have gone if the safety car hadn't gone out. The next person to be interviewed was Oscar Piastri. He said that it would have been interesting to see where they would have finished without the safety car, but they finished in a good place with what they had. So he's happy about that. And I'm like, oh, our polite cat. And then it's Leclerc's time for an interview. I always like Leclerc's interviews. He's always very honest, very straightforward from what I've seen. So it's always interesting to see what he has to say. He said that his fight with Russell was a bit of a sweaty one. Technically, he said it was a bit sweaty. And he was on the bit of a back foot. I can't tell if this was in reference to the safety car or pit stop. He said he was on a bit of a back foot, but he decided to keep pushing and bring out everything the tires had. And in the end, it ended up not being as hard as he thought it would be to keep the tires he had on, so that way he wouldn't have to do another pit stop. He said that he didn't have enough pace to catch up to Piastri, but it was a very cool race. And then they circle back to Antonelli, and Damon Hill asked, what do you have to say to the fans? And he showed his appreciation, his gratefulness for them, and he says, arigato, which drivers usually do after a race. They usually try to say thank you in the language of that country. All right, so final thoughts. Other than Russell crashing out because of the safety car, and other than Behrman's incident, his 50G impact incident, it was a good race. I get that the safety car ruined a lot of people's race, but I'm glad that Behrman is okay. And because of the break, he'll have time to recover. Leclerc and Piastri had a really good race. Piastri using strategy to overtake Russell in the corners was genius. And Leclerc throwing himself into the corners to overtake Russell was another stroke of genius. I was like, dang, like the way this boy was driving the whole weekend, like all throughout the free practices, all throughout qualifying, he was literally throwing himself. And I think I explained that he likes to let his rear tire slide when he's in the corner. So he'll like slide into a corner and then take off. And I'm like, dang. But it benefited him in the end. Gasly did a really good job. He managed to keep his track position all throughout the race, all throughout the pit stops and the craziness. He finished in the same place he started. And Ocon charging up the field right behind Max Verstappen. At every overtake Verstappen did, Ocon was right there behind him, like swooping in. And this is his first time finishing in the points. He finished at P10. So good job, Ocon. And before I forget, after this race, a lot of drivers voiced their concerns about the new regulations. Part of the concern about having a hybrid car was having the overtake and the boost and the turbo depend on battery. If you lose battery charge suddenly, it can cause a collision or a driver injury or worse. So a lot of drivers voiced their concerns. They said something has to change because this was a concern that we had about the hybrid cars going in. And this crash just brought our concerns to life, which isn't good because having a 50G impact is devastating. The way that Behrman was shook us all. And they are asking for changes in the regulations so that way it can be safe for drivers to drive these Formula One cars. And since this is post-race, we found out that there are regulation changes coming up in the Miami Grand Prix, which is the next race that I will cover. Well, fans, that's all for this chat. If there are thoughts that you would like to share about the race, put them down in the comments. Let me know what you thought about it. Was it exciting? Were you like screaming? Or was that just me? Make sure y'all are kind and respectful down there. Don't make me come down there. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Follow me for more F1 chats and check out my F1 chat playlist. If you're new here and you're like, what is a race weekend? What are all these words you're talking about? You can watch my first video, which is a beginner's guide to F1 racing. Thank you for watching. See you in the next chat. Bye.